I joined because I just love being in a team where everybody kind of has the same likes and differences, because we all kind of are nerdy and like to game and have fun.
I believe in STEM. I think it's great for kids. It's hands-on. It teaches them how to problem solve.
I want to be a robotics engineer when I grow up, and I feel like this will give me a good thing to put on my college application, and B, will give me a good jump start on programming and building robots.
Sure that it wasn't infected, so he has a little bandage on.
Oh, I'm so
Kinda
sorry.
Yeah, I really.
We're live. Ladies, welcome to Ladies of the Round Table, episode 71. If you're new to the channel, thanks for joining us. If you don't know who these faces are, we're Ladies of the Round Table, the gaming talk show. We talk about fandom, we talk about comics, we talk about whatever we want because it's our show. And you're here. Tonight's guest, Brianna Wu, somewhere.
What's up? I'm right here. How you doing?
You know that game we play?
I do.
Regular host of the channel, Tiff. Maybe?
Hey.
No, I think might be next door. It's like the Brady Bunch, right? Pixie.
Hey.
Maybe. Yeah. And Holly.
Hey everyone, thanks for coming.
And you regulars in the chat, thank you for stopping in. Throw up your salty dogs for waving at us. Welcome back. And we have a interesting person behind the production tonight. Tyler filling in, coming in with the save. Ian is out tonight, under the weather. Ian, we hope you're better and back next week. If not, I don't know, crawl down the steps, buddy. We need you. Come on back. Gaming Jams, welcome. Ed in the house. Who else is in the chat, Pixie?
All right. So I apologize. I am the angel of death tonight. In that I mean that I'm like
Every
terribly
night.
sick. Have my interweb germs through the Ethernet. A purple Ronnie. You're probably gonna get bubonic plague. I apologize right now. Cody Jero, Ed Johnson presents Nerd. Like I hope Nerd isn't some new disease that I have right now, but it's definitely possible. Foxy Man, Gaming Gyms, Hadawist.
Yeah.
Closet Klepto, you can steal all the germs you want from me. Please take them. Little Blob, Peatman, 1000, Postman Pat, and of course, our championship belt holder, Utterly Random Guy.
Woo, that's a lot of names rattling off real fast. Breathe, lady. All right, so we also have a lot of giveaways for tonight. If you haven't noticed, Tiff, what do we got? We got Geek Fuel, right?
Got Geek Fuel. We've also got Gigantic and Rainbow Six Siege.
Yeah.
Right.
Wow.
So if you haven't entered the Geek Fuel giveaway, you can head on over to our website via the link that's in the below in the chat and enter to win September's Geek Fuel box, courtesy of our sponsor, Geek Fuel. And let me tell you, if you haven't seen what's in that box, It's amazing.
Watch our unboxings if you haven't seen
We
what's
have
in the box.
unboxings. Yep.
Unboxing right on that same page. Head over to the giveaway tab. Check it out. We will be giving away a box every month to a lucky viewer.
Woo!
I mean, what more do you want? Free stuff.
Yeah,
Tonight's
they announced next week or next month is Bob's Burgers themed.
ooh. I have no Bob's Burgers swag, so I'm pretty
I'm
excited.
excited.
You know, and I really
almost
want to know
got
what the t-shirt's going to be. That's the big rub for me because I have to keep it away from my teenager or else I get no shirt.
Yeah, the past one we did get a an exclusive shirt that was a Deadpool shirt, so that was pretty cool. If you do want to go over and watch the unboxing, show all of the cool stuff that's in it. There's like a really cool Nuka-Cola like Fallout magnet. I think that was probably my favorite part of it.
Yeah.
A really cool book and a couple other little goodies. And those
And poppers.
nappy poppy thingies. I really like those.
That was my favorite part.
I think Tiff called them Pop Rocks. If you
I
watched
did call
her
them Pop Rocks.
unboxing video.
I got so excited I couldn't remember what they were called. I'm like, Poppy Snap things. They're great. It's Pop Rocks. And they're fun. I like those things. They're my
It was pretty awesome. So, Bree, we start off the show by asking everyone at the table, what was your WTF moment of the week?
Oh my God, what would that be? It's got to be the death threat I got this week, right?
Oh.
Like, you know, like it's hard to top that. Let me think of a happier story though. What was my WTF moment this week? So we had Chris Clue on our show Isometric last night. Chris Clue's like former punter for the Minnesota Vikings. He is so awesome. He is so awesome. Like not only is he ridiculously good looking, he is 10 out of 10 down with women's rights, and he is so vocal about treating everybody equally, and he's a good writer. And so he was on our show last night, and just as we were planning the show and starting the show, my producer, his power ended up going out. So we're like 10 minutes before the show, and we were scrambling trying to figure out how to do it. That was terrible. That was absolutely terrible.
Wow, I think we at the round table, we always have at least once or twice a month technology not be our friend. So we feel that pain.
I bet you do.
Hey.
So Tiff, go ahead.
Oh, me?
Yeah.
I get to go? I've experienced like my first panic attack for the first time this week.
Oh.
And, so that was pretty terrible. I hope nobody else ever has to go through that. I didn't know what was happening and I thought I was dying.
Yeah.
So I would put it right up there with if you've never had heartburn before with your very first panic attack, what they both kind of feel like. It feels kind of similar, but like if you have heartburn all the time, then you know it's heartburn. But if you've never had heartburn until you're like, in your 20s. I also had heartburn for the first time when I was going to have my daughter when I was pregnant. And I was like, what's happening to me? I had no idea. So when this happened to me again, I'm like, it's kind of like that, but worse. And I had no idea what was going on.
So I have to ask, are you okay? Are you okay now?
I'm okay today. So
Okay.
I've been under a lot of stress. My husband's going to be having surgery on Monday. So
Oh no.
Captain's getting a new hip. So that'll be fun and
Wow.
work and stress and all kinds of stuff. But hey, I'm here today and I'm 2 weeks. Was it 2 weeks? 1 week? I've been gone for a couple weeks. But hey, I'm here now. It's good.
Life is back. You guys both, you and Holly both been kind of traveling and doing your thing. And guys, if you didn't know, or if you're just now figuring it out, Tiff is married to our great friend, Captain Redbeard. So send him over some love and some hugs for that hip surgery. Tell him we're thinking about him and we wish him well. And anything he needs from afar, I guess, we're sending good vibes. So
He's
we're going
partly bionic now. So it's,
yeah, right.
he's part robot and I love robots.
Status.
We're throwing up the Twitter tags. You guys can send him some love over on this Twitter. And
Oh my God.
hopefully it will all pan out smoothly. I mean, it's to be expected to have some setbacks with something like this because hip is a major surgery. He's got to take it easy. And I know he's not the type of person to slow down, but
Yeah.
He's got to slow his ass down now. So, but he's gonna be. He gets to stay home from work for a whole month.
Oh, he's gonna freak out.
A little bit jealous. But he's gonna be doing a lot of streaming and stuff. I know he's saving Metal Gear for that. So
Metal Gear is so good, by the way. So that will almost make up for it. Yeah.
He knows it's going to be a really long game, so it's been killing him. He's been staying away from everything, and so he's very excited about it. We got the one with like the little hand and everything. So
can I interrupt to tell a really quick story? So as you were telling that story, I tore a muscle this week running, and I was looking, and this little terrible dog right here had the entire canister of pain pills. It was
that would have been awful.
Oh my God. So that's like, I had to go off camera and go take
That was an emergency.
That was an emergency. I would prefer Rocket to stay alive. That would be my preference.
So Holly, the WTF moment for you this week should be pretty interesting because you have been back and forth on the plane. You've been to Vegas. You've been to back over in, well, you're still in Cali, but you went over to San Fran. So come on, spill it. Give us the tea.
I think my WTF moment was the whole entire esports conference yesterday. I think it's the highlight of my gaming industry career side. Sorry, my dog's trying to steal my French fries right now. So another emergency.
Damn, show us your animals pictures. We're going to do the animal pictures again this week.
We should.
I know. We need to. Everyone send us your animal pictures. Hashtag space
Fur
cat
babies.
and tag us. We want to see. But I think like if I had to pick like a couple moments, the diversity panel was the most well-received panel of the whole conference, which is huge. So they weren't expecting that, and it was so well-received. And then my second WTF moment was the CEO of Fnatic coming up to me and saying he just had to meet me.
Oh.
I literally died. I'm like, you just had to meet me? Okay.
You are the shizzle. What can we say?
Yeah, so, and then yesterday, that's why I'm eating, I don't eat in front of people, so the fact that I'm even eating on camera right now is crazy, but we found a lump on my dog's leg like about 2 hours ago. So I had to quick call and get him in an appointment. So Chris went, so we didn't eat anything till right now. They just walked in. And yesterday I was up for 22 hours of traveling. It was intense. So I like look dead right now, but the vlog will be up for that.
You look dead right now?
Yes.
Holy.
I hope to look as dead as you.
Come on.
Exactly.
Girl.
Thank you.
Exactly.
Really though?
I have to
Did
tell
you
you,
see-
I have been on a plane all year, and I feel your pain. It is, you know, like you have this vision in your mind that when you're traveling all the time, it's going to be fun and epic, and it is a giant pain in the butt. Like you get so used to it, and like I think I am on the road for like 6 out of the next 8 weeks, you know, and it just it wears on you, you know, like being out in public, and I don't know, it's you know what, like the thing about my job is I'm fundamentally an engineer, and I fundamentally like spending time by myself, like, you know, coding or doing whatever, and like all this public stuff that's now, you know, part of what I have to do. I will do it because the mission objective is important, but I hate it. It just it drains you, you know?
Yeah, it really does. I was actually just tweeting about that. I think like 2 days
Oh yes, you tweeted an airline. I think you did.
Yeah, there was a specific airline that was kind of driving me insane. But along with being, you know, having to be social and stuff like that, I love talking to new people and I love meeting new people. But sometimes when you're forced into those situations, it's such a drain. It's just like, oh my God, I had to go to another meeting for work stuff, and there was people at my table that I had to sit with that were just mentally, physically draining to me, because it was like pulling teeth trying to get them to cooperatively work with me, and I'm just like, this is hard. This is so hard right now. So I get that 110%. And then like fighting with airlines is a whole other deal.
Well, I thought it was going to be so cool because I'm like, oh, they're flying me in day of and flying me back out day of. No,
that's the worst. Don't fall for that. Don't.
Nope, that's awful.
last time I do it, to be honest.
Hey, well, let's talk about social responsibility. Great segue, Bree. So we at Roundtable Media, LORT Live, aka, we feel that there's a specific responsibility to the gaming community via these companies that are pumping out these games and developing these games, including your company, Space Cat.
Giant Space Cat, yeah.
So do you feel that it is morally and or socially responsible, for the younger generation? Do you feel like you should be setting the example? It is something that you think about every day?
For me, like in what sense? Like making inclusive
in
games?
the sense of gaming in itself, technology, and as far as the community is concerned, and being forthright with kids about understanding their social media and how to use it and being responsible, as well as the material that you're putting out, obviously.
Well, I think it's a very broad range of questions. I could tell you, I certainly spend a lot of time thinking about what I advocate as a feminist figure. I kind of never set out to be a public figure. It's something that ended up happening. So I find myself in this uncomfortable position where it's almost a responsibility. I find that if I don't speak out on some of these things, they're not going to be addressed by our industry. Like, it's been 30 years of our industry barely talking about how women are represented in games. Then Anita Sarkeesian comes along and some other people, and it's like, if we don't start talking about this, the problems don't, solve themselves. So, I spend a lot of time thinking about what am I advocating, what is my company doing, and we talk about mistakes. Something I've been very open with are the problems with my game, which I love, Revolution 60, but we failed at putting different body types out there. Going forward, I realized that the problem isn't that you can't portray a woman that's size 6, it's that cannot be all that you see in games. I realized that we put out a game where all the protagonists are white. That's not acceptable. So I think what is really important for creators is to always be listening to your feedback, to critically evaluate your actions. It's really easy to get defensive and not hear criticism. And, I'm always looking to get better. The next game we ship is going to be a lot better than Rev 60. I hope the game we ship after that will be even better. So, we're all growing, right?
Agreed. Sorry, Ed, we didn't mean to make you think you were going to pass out or drop on the floor. We had some camera shifting and we had to move everybody back into place.
Don't listen to her. We did it on purpose. We just wanted to mess with your head and make
sure you're awake.
Crazy.
If you knew the real reason, you would die. I'm just going to say that. That's all I'm saying.
Just kidding.
But it was my fault, so I apologize.
Way to go, Holly Ann.
I know. I suck today. It's okay.
Just today? I'm kidding. I love you.
Every day.
Tiff, cue you.
So cool. One of my questions, you kind of lead into one of my questions that I had for you.
Sure.
So it's with all the things that of course have gone around with you, you're right, you kind of just got shoved into being a public figure. Do you feel like you've stayed true to yourself through thick and thin, or would you imagine that yourself today is different from yourself a year ago? Do you think that you've stayed the same and just everyone has seen you, or do you think that the experiences that you've gone through have changed you in any way?
Well, it's definitely changed me. That's a really good question. I have to say, it's changed me. There's no way you can get the number of threats I've gotten this year and not have it damage you.
Of course.
So, I think that one of the advantages of being an indie dev and owning your own studios, no one, I pay myself through my product. No one tells me what I can say. I don't have a PR department telling me what I can say. So, it's not a coincidence that me, Anita Sarkeesian, Zoe Quinn, Randy Harper, a lot of the women that really speak out on this don't work for Intel or Microsoft or anyone else. There's a freedom with that. And privately, I could tell you some women are under corporate edicts to kind of not discuss these things. So, I think that the person you're seeing right here today, this is me. The person you see on Twitter is me. I have to say, like, I am a lot more guarded and selective about what I say. You know, it's really a line. Like, you know, that Samus piece I wrote last week, it really blew up in ways I honestly had no idea it was going to. But, you know, I genuinely believe what was in that piece. And I think at the end of the day, I'm trying to stay true to myself. Does that make sense to you? Like, if you, it doesn't matter what your career is, if you're not being genuine about who you are, like, what's the point, right?
Yeah.
Definitely.
Absolutely. Yeah, it's one of those things where, you know, everyone has life experiences, but a lot of times some people will just have that really strong backbone where it's like, this is who I am and this is who I've always been.
Absolutely.
This stuff has been thrown at me and it's been happening, but I'm still this person behind all of this cloud of stuff that's happening, you know?
Absolutely.
And some people can take it and run with it and just completely change. Like, well, this is who I am now. This is what I do. And other people will just, you know, sit there and be like, no, I've always been this way. This is now just in the eye of everyone.
I think that there's a range of responses that people have to it. And I can't tell you this year how many times I've had women come up to me and tell me privately behind the scenes, like, I feel guilty for not speaking up more. I feel guilty for not being on the front lines like you are. And I think that's so unfair to yourself to feel that way. Like, we're all doing the best that we can, right? And, you know, some people, like, the stuff I do sucks. It's terrible. I wouldn't recommend it for anyone. You know, like, Gamergate has this fantasy that, you know, I'm making tons of money doing this. And the truth is, like, it's mostly a huge distraction from my real work. Like, my team is sometimes very frustrated with me when I'm not in the office. You know, I would be really honest with you, and this is something I haven't talked in the media about a lot, but, like, my friend Laura Lynn McWilliams, you know, she's talked publicly about facing cancer and how facing death really gave her the courage to speak out on women in tech issues. And, you know, I faced death in very serious ways myself, yes, ways I haven't really talked about in the media before. And I think, like, when you've really had situations that make you go, am I going to be able to survive? I think it makes you treasure what you're doing. I think it's a gift in a way. It makes you so much more true for yourself. And you realize you can't live for other people. You have to live for yourself. And I know how idealistic and Oprah-like that sounds, but it's really true. So
It really is, though.
yeah.
I mean,
Well, it's a really true comment, because the reason why we started this show was specifically for us ladies to be able to have a smart, you know, real conversation about the things that we enjoy without censoring ourselves.
Yeah.
And for fear of retribution of opening our mouth.
Yeah.
And it has become something of a laughing stock for some people to come in and troll because they feel that we're on display for them to humiliate. But like you said, there has to be a thick skin, and someone has to be able to sit in this position and be able to speak for other women who cannot or will not, because of retribution for their whatever's going on in their lives, or have had an incident where someone has made them feel less than. And I think that that's important that we speak on that part, because there are people that maybe would love to do this, but don't understand how much of a commitment and or how much time it takes away from your friends and family, as well as it's not a party. We're not out doing, having after parties every night or drinking with our friends. Everybody thinks it's such a wonderful, like we're like a rock star. That's not the case.
Can I say a quick comment on that? And first, can I ask you, am I allowed to curse on this show?
You are very much allowed to.
Okay.
Ask Tiff.
Listen.
Yeah. Fuck yeah.
I have a piece in Refinery 29 that it's going to come out really soon. And my piece is talking about how when I was, growing up, and I got my first Nintendo Entertainment System in 1985, back when dinosaurs ruled the earth. What I can't believe, what I can barely believe, what makes me want to cry is that, like, my friend Steve, his daughters are growing up into a game industry where women are treated the exact same shitty way. And it's absolutely unacceptable. Like, look, we're all here. We all love games. We all love geek culture. Do you think for a second, if 5 guys decided to do something where they talked about their love of games, they would be sitting here worrying if people were going to comment on their looks, what their makeup was, what their hair was like, that people will be coming into the chat room and sending them threats? This is the reality. And we're just geeks. That's the bottom line. We just love this shit. And I just will not accept a culture where we can't just hang out as friends and have a conversation. It's fucking unacceptable. So
hashtag that. That's fucking unacceptable.
Fucking unacceptable. Yeah.
There you go.
Which is funny because we did get a question from the chat from Ed Johnson.
Sure.
He actually asks to you, do you find yourself consciously censoring yourself? And does it make it harder for you to get your point across?
I try to curse less on Twitter, for sure. I wouldn't say I censor myself. I would say I'm a lot more tactical about things. Sometimes someone will tweet something at me that's really obnoxious. I want to tell them to go fuck themselves, right? And I don't do it because I know it's going to end up being a threat on KIA, right? So, I feel that I've been extremely true to myself this whole time. Just before the show, I was doing like an hour-long interview with a very big journalistic institution. And I think as I'm telling people my story, I think the reason I keep getting interviewed is because I think I'm very genuine and credible about it. I'm like, look, this is what I see. This is what's happening. So, the Brianna Wu you see is not, a product made by people. It's me genuinely just trying to change the world as best as I can.
Not to say that you wouldn't love a glam squad person to pick out your wardrobe, person to make your meals.
Can I be straight with you? I hate that stuff. I had a photo shoot today and I will go do it, but it is my least favorite part of my job by far. I hate that stuff.
Hey, and that's what she said, guys. You heard it first.
Yep.
Breeze down. She's real. This is who she is. Yeah. Holly, you have a question, I'm pretty sure. And yes. Keeping an eye on that chat.
So, this kind of goes with the whole death threats thing.
Sure.
Yesterday, when I was speaking at the esports conference, I was talking about all of the death threats that I receive. I get at least one a week. And when I was streaming and in that whole world, I was getting like 100 phone calls a day. My family was getting phone calls. I mean, it was like craziness.
I'm sorry.
Now this to me is not surprising.
Yeah.
And I'm sure you feel the same exact way.
Yeah.
So I'm just like not casually, but it's a diversity panel, just, talking about it. And this one woman in the back, threw up her hand. She could not believe it. And she's someone that works heavily in the esports industry and had never heard of this. And then we had people coming up after the fact, and I had at least 2 or 3 other people that were so blown away that I received death threats. And it's like, it's not just me, dude. This is the internet.
Yeah.
This is not a thing. So my question to you is, why do you think that this isn't something that everyone knows about, especially people that are heavily in the esports industry? And what do you think we can do to fix this?
I have to tell you, the entire reason I got involved in the first place, if you remember last year when I got those threats sent to me that went mega viral, like your dead mutilated corpse is going to end up on the front page of Jezebel tomorrow. And when, CNN, MSNBC, The Guardian, BBC, when all this media kept calling me, I had one mission, which was to get people to know about this. And this is where, look, I'm about to blast the frack out of the game journalism industry because they have ignored this stuff for 30 damn years now. You can go back to Developer Magazine in the 80s and 90s and read what women in those days were dealing with in our field. It's the exact same stuff. IGN doesn't cover it. Giant Bomb doesn't cover it. Game Informer doesn't cover it. Don't want to hear it. Dudes run the show. They don't care. They don't want to hear it. It's not their problem. So what they've done is enable this entire industry of abuse. And this isn't it's not our problem. This isn't the behavior we're doing. I don't know about you. I don't send death.
No.
This is a bro behavior problem. This is their problem. IGN is exactly who needs to be talking about this. And they equivocate and they shirk their responsibility. And, that is the ethics and journalism issue. So, like, how do we get people to know about it? You keep speaking up. I keep speaking up. When people tell you, shut up, I don't want to hear it, you push through. This is important. It's not just about you and me. This is about, I get letters every single week from 15-year-old girls that are terrified about becoming game developers. It is completely unacceptable that another generation of women is going to grow up and get this bullshit. It ends here. That's it, right? Like, we got to change it.
Fantastic answer. I totally agree with you. It was honestly my first time that I was sitting there and I realized exactly what you're saying. Like, I was literally mind blown. Like, you guys haven't heard of this? Like, you guys have been, and the one woman was at least 2.5, 3 times my age.
Right.
And she works in the esports industry. And I'm like, how have you not heard of this? And then the 3 other were males and they were young. Right. And I'm like, do you guys own a computer?
Right.
I was
on the internet.
Yeah.
But
and
can I say something about that?
It's
sorry.
No, you're fine. It's a problem. Like, people need to know about this.
So if you think about it, and look, there's no judgment here, but the way the older generation, the generation is older than me, I'm in my mid-30s, right? The way those women survived was through not making a fuss, through working with the patriarchy, through kind of like, and you talk to them and they are as pissed as we are. But the way they survived is you found the women that would kind of go along to get along as best as they could. And, they survived that way. So, it doesn't surprise me when you're saying that. I feel sometimes like I'm kind of straddling, like, the generation of 40 and 50-year-olds and like the younger generation of women that are coming up, that they see this stuff and they just don't accept it. Right. And I'm really excited that, I see women your age, and I think we're going to work together, because I think we are the ones drawing the line in the sand.
Yeah.
Sorry, I feel so passionately about this.
No, I honestly absolutely love it, because like I said, like, yesterday was like, I was slapped in the face with it. Like, I really had never known, because like when everything happened with you, I wasn't shocked.
Yeah.
At all, because it's happened to me for the last 13 years.
Of course. Right.
So when people were shocked yesterday, I thought they were trolling. I'm like, are you trolling? So like, I feel like it's so cool just coming back from that yesterday, and then to hear your perspective and your passion on it is fantastic. I think it's great.
Yeah. Well, let me just tell you, look, your experiences are real. If those people hadn't heard about it, don't let anyone make you feel like your truth isn't worth anything. I hear you. I hear it. I can hear it in your voice how that's hurt you. And I want you to know, like, I support you, and we're gonna make it better. Okay?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So the question is, for a very long time, none of this is stuff that was reported or really talked about.
Yep.
Do you think that was willful ignorance, or that it was just flat ignorance because it's not something that these people have ever encountered?
I think it's kind of willful ignorance and kind of accidental. And it's women have barely worked in our field. Like, look at Game Informer. 17 out of 18 of their editors are men. I'm going to say that one more time. Over at Game Informer, which is in pretty much any GameStop you're going to go into, the people making the editorial calls there, reviewing your games, deciding what gets covered, 17 out of 18 of them are dudes. That has massive consequences for the kind of games that are covered, the issues that we cover. So, like, are these people bad people? No. I mean, I can't think of a single man that works in this industry. Like, there's some I think are jerks, but I can't think of one professional in the entire field that I think is just, a bad person in the game industry. I think that their privilege blinds them. I think that game dev is a system that has been built for their own comfort, for the ground up. And I think they just don't understand the perspective you and I sitting here just automatically know. I mean, how do you feel about it?
I think it's a mixed bag.
Yeah.
I think that there is willful ignorance that goes on.
Mhm.
And I think some of that willful ignorance is not because we're women, it's because harassment is harassment, whether it's sexual harassment or just plain old death threats that have nothing to do with the person's gender, like swatting, for instance. Swatting has actually occurred to a vast majority of men who play video games, where their houses are stormed. There are a lot of men who have been swatted. Most of the documented cases that I've seen have happened to men. There have been like 3 or 4 that have been major cases for women that have been documented that I've seen, at least. And so, like, for me personally, I feel like some of this is willful ignorance, and some of it is just ignorance in the fact that people view sexual harassment and plain old online harassment in very similar veins. And so it's not reported because they don't feel like it's any different, like it matters any more or any less.
Yeah. I also think there's a certain socialization I feel that all women kind of go through, that, like, let's imagine you and I are besties and, like, we have some conflict together and you're unhappy with me about something. Like, we're going to sit down and have a conversation about it, and there's going to be some reflection, and there's probably going to be either like a lot of drama or some behavior change. What I see from dudes in the industry is if you try to talk to them about their behavior, they don't want to think they're a bad person. They don't want to think they're sexist. They don't want to hear criticism. And the defensiveness, these walls come up, and it's like Batman's car where armor just shoots all over it, And it is so hard to have like basic conversations with, like, hey, the way that you phrased that today, that was a little bit problematic. I had an Apple journalist a couple of weeks ago that Apple put out a report, and he completely misrepresented the facts because he didn't look at it beyond 4 seconds. And I tried to have a conversation with him about it. This is somebody I've written for. This is somebody I thought was my friend. And this bullshit male defensiveness came up, and he's like insulting me personally. He's doing stuff that was so making personal attacks on me on Twitter. They're so horrific. I can't even tell you what they are here. And it's just so difficult to get the men here to kind of address really basic stuff. It's demoralizing.
Well, with that being said, I want to say something positive that we got from
Yay!
Yay! So it's good when you talk about negative things, sometimes really positive things happen too.
Yeah.
So we do have gaming gems from the chat, and they said, I never used to notice this rubbish online until I started following you, and I've started calling this stuff out in World of Warcraft. If you don't stand up and say no more, it will never get better. Thank you so much for giving me strength.
Oh.
So I thought that was a really great comment. So thank you, Gaming Gems, for sharing that with us. That's really fantastic. And I'm sure that's great for you to hear. Like, that's got to be awesome to hear stuff like that,
I hear it a lot. I get letters from women a lot that say, Brianna, because you stand up and you just say it like it is and you don't tap dance around it, it gives me the strength to speak my truth. It gives me the strength to speak, write that article. It gives me the strength to talk to my boss at work. Like, some of this is just, I don't think I'm the most awesome person on the planet. I do think I'm stubborn as hell. And I think, like, seeing someone just stand up and go, like, come at me, bro. I don't care. Like, this is the way things are. I think that has worth for all of us, right? And it's like, when I think part of the culture that gets women to kind of attack each other in the mean girls kind of way, the actual point of that is to get us so infighting with each other that we don't, stand up for all this nonsense. Because when we're all on one side, we are unstoppable. It's absolutely unstoppable. So, I say let's just all work together.
I have to say that this show would not be what it is today without you ladies sitting on the panel with me and supporting the conversation, and you guys in chat, because all the ideas that I have in my head and all the momentum that I put into this charity and working blood, sweat, and tears and no sleep, because sleep is for when you're dead, would all be for naught if it wasn't for you guys, because I'm just one person. And without you guys, we wouldn't be a nation. LORT Nation, roll on, hashtag it, because you guys make this my dream come true of helping young kids and inspiring them to create. Because if we want the longevity of the gaming industry to keep going, we want to see new games, we want to see new technology, we want to see these kids be able to say, I made this and check me out. I'm the shizzle because I did it myself. And I'm telling you, it just takes one time to see the smile on a kid's face when they've learned something or felt worthy within themselves that they created something, and you're done. Just done. Call it good.
I do have to say, though, it's not just about the kids. I think there's sometimes a tendency in technology to want to punt on the next generation. And look, we have internships at our company for young women. And, like I was talking to a school the other day about coming in and helping some girls learn to code. I believe in that, but I think it's really important to also put ourselves first. I want to make it better for that generation by making it better for you and I now.
Agreed.
And I think it's really important. Like, this is a mission objective that's about us.
I think it's about the whole community overall, because there are plenty of men out there, and we don't have to label everything male, female, or gender, but there are plenty of people out there that consider themselves a feminist and don't have the appropriate genitalia, or consider themselves, to be supportive of the other gender in their life. And those people are obviously sitting in that chat. There's lots of, men and women that are here and or on our social media that tell us every day, thank you for starting this conversation and letting us be involved in it. And really, thank you guys. I mean, come on. There's lots of questions popping up in chat. I see the chat rolling on. So I know Holly is going to throw up some questions. We're trying to keep Pixie's chat to a minimum because she's going to have a coughing fit if she has a conversation.
Yeah, let me read this one that Ed Johnson just put out for, I think it's just for us. I'm going to take it first and I'm going to throw it. He says, guy to guy, when guys play together in games, it's acceptable to be jerks to one another. Can we do that with women without offending? Where's the line? I want to play with all, but I also want to be myself. Can I be a friendly gaming jerk like I am with my guy friends with women? Is this a dumb question? So I talked about this yesterday in a panel because a guy raised his hand and he's like, hey, we get harassed too. And I'm like, for sure you do. But the one thing I see the difference in, first off, I think everyone should treat each other how they want to be treated. And I think treating people like that online is it's not a good idea just in general. But the difference with guys poking around with guys is it usually lasts, at least in the games that I've played, which is a lot, usually like 3 rounds, but like the harassment that I get lasts months and years, and they're still talking about it. By the 30th round, they're looking at pictures on my Instagram from 70 weeks ago. Yep. They've already dropped the, oh, well, you sound like a chipmunk because you're 12. Like, that was dropped. So I feel like I feel like we should be treating everybody with equality and fairness and respect and love. And I feel like even just like poking fun at your friend, even if it's someone you know in person, and that's something you guys do in person, I think we have to be really careful about the way we act online because we're examples to other people. That's
you want to feel like you're supportive of women, but you don't want to examine your behavior or change it. What's up with that? Like, you don't have to be a jerk to people. Don't talk to me like that if I'm playing Destiny with you. I play with dudes in my Destiny clan. They don't talk to me like that. It's not acceptable. You can't talk to, that's just like a politeness issue, right? Like, if you know somebody really super well, if you're besties with them, like, I talk smack to my husband, but I'm married to him, right? I'm not going to do that with like randos. So, if you have that trust, if you have that friendship, yeah, you can do that. If you're a stranger with them, unacceptable behavior, period. You've got to earn it.
I have to say that it's almost like the same courtesy you would give anyone when you're not hiding behind a screen and a keyboard, right?
Yeah.
So would you walk up to a random stranger, male or female, and blast them with whatever those expletives and or maybe not expletives, but the bro comments or bro-esque comments that you would give someone else as a gamer online? Maybe not so much. Go ahead, Tim.
I mean, I was just kind of one of those things where I kind of agree with you. You have to have a politeness to strangers. Now, of course, if I'm gaming with all of my friends, I'm usually in a party chat so that other random people don't hear us. That's also being polite to them, because then they're not, if I'm like sitting here joking around or saying something, they're not going to hear it. That's the other thing too, is with party chats, that's the benefit, is you don't have to hear other people. You talk to who you want to talk to. So I like having that as an option for me when I'm playing games online. Anymore, I put my mic on mute just because I don't want to deal with it sometimes. If I'm in like in a mood where I'm up and I'm like, yeah, whatever, I'll play, I'll talk to people. It's like I'm playing, like I Call of Duty. I talk about it all the time. I play Call of Duty. If I'm playing an objective mission, I'm like, cool, let's get the flag. I got to go. And they're like, is that a girl playing? I'm like, oh, God, we got to go over this all over again. But instead, I'll just mute it and be like, I have the flag, whatever, and just basically play capture the flag by myself while my team like does other stuff.
See, and I have to cut in real quick because I got to say this, because this brings up what Bree said. Here's the thing. We as women should not have to sit there and not talk on our mics because how people are going to treat us in chat. That's bullshit. Yeah, that is absolute crap. Because the girl next to me on my panel, she's like, oh yeah, I remember when I started gaming, I would change my alias so it was gender neutral and I wouldn't have my picture. I said, fuck that, dude. I have my picture. I have whatever I want. And I'm going to talk. I'm going to be the first one to say, good luck, have fun. And I can't wait to hear all the, oh my gosh, it's a grill comments, because I'm a pwn your bitch ass. That's all right.
I'm going to throw up the mod real quick, throw up the mod hammer and let Pixie go ahead.
Can somebody make an animated GIF of that so I can tweet that and make it mega viral?
Here's the thing. I'm going to be the first to admit I have a mouth like a fucking sailor, and I probably talk trash more than anybody I play with. Like, let's be real. I talk so much shit. I am so salty. I give no fucks. Don't even care. I will.
That's why it's Monster Mash, Pixie, because you'll mash your ass with that mouth. I'm telling you.
Like, I will turn you into mashed potatoes, and then I will, like, eat your face off. I don't give a fuck. No fucks.
So, I mean, there's times where I'll do the exact same thing, but there's other times where I just don't want to deal with it. You know what I mean? Where you just want to play the game and you don't want to talk shit. Like, I used to trash talk all the time. I'm like, suck it. And I'm like, I got this, whatever, you know, and that's what happens. You get competitive. You start wanting to trash talking. That's kind of how it is in pretty much anything that's competitive. And that's become kind of the culture, but then there's a part where it draws a line, right? It's like
there is absolutely a line.
And then there's the parts where like, I'm gonna come to your house and rape you. That's different from saying I'm just gonna keep you. You know, like that's really, really
the thing
different.
is
going into
the thing
it.
We're not thinking about though is that some of these comments are things that are okay. So I'm going to rape you comments. Like I'm gonna rape this noob. That comment is so played out. Like, get a new vocabulary, bitch, for real. Like, how old are you? 12? Have you ever had sex? Like, go get your dick wet and then say something.
Well, what I mean when I'm talking about those ones is when it goes into the more serious aspects.
The problem is that we have allowed this, and it's not just men who have allowed this, it's women too. We have allowed these things to be said, and then there have been points where we have said things that we should not have said. 100%. I've been there, done that. That.
I'm not going to claim that women are some magical gender that are flawless and capable of sin, because we're not. But I'm going to get a little academic feminist here for just a second. Something I think about a lot is I ask myself, how much of me is really me? Because we're kind of put into this culture that's very patriarchal. It can be very aggressive to us. And a coping strategy that a lot of us get to kind of survive is trying to be one of the guys, right? Like trying to blend in with them, trying to take on those attitudes that, you're the cool girl, right? And it's like, is that really the way you want to play, or is that like the culture that you're participating in? And I personally, look, I love games. Like, look on my shelf behind me. I've got plenty of games, but there's something very broken with our culture, with gamer culture. And it's broken in the dev culture too. What I find increasingly as I get older is there are so many people that are willfully lacking in empathy. And those are people, like, it's really part of gamer culture that just don't want to feel any kind of sense of responsibility or politeness or anything towards anyone else. And look, I don't want gamer culture to become Oprah, right? But I think we could make it a lot more civil. I think we could take out the rape comments. I think we've got to change this culture of aggression towards women, Well,
I think that's absolutely true. And I think some of that comes from the fact that for the most part, when you look at the stereotype of a gamer, they're all people who are isolated, who like live in their parents' basement and have no real friends. And I think that stereotype has driven some of this behavior 100%. And I think there is an issue with what we do and how we interact in games with people both of our own sex and different sex. Because there have been studies done that say things in regards to benevolent sexism. Anybody know what that is? If you don't, it's essentially the view that you're seen as sexist when you don't display nice sexist behavior, like opening doors for women. And so there is a lot of the idea that people do have where if you're talking to a girl as an equal, that you're actually being a sexist douche. And I'm going to tell you this, if the girl you're playing with says it's okay and like she's going to shit talk you just like I do, like we'll go all day long. Don't even give a fuck. So listen to the person that you're playing with and not everyone else. Yeah. That is a huge thing. And if somebody says, look, you're really bothering me, like, can you get off my back? Like, do it. Just don't be an asshole.
Some people find that hard to do. I mean, really.
I do. I'm a bitch.
Well, Pixie kind of stole the words out of my mouth. That's kind of what I was going to say is, I'll sit there and I'll talk with my friends and talk how I would like to talk with my friends. But if I go into an open room and just am casually talking to them, I'm not expecting to have the same banter as I have with my friends. So to answer the chat question, no, you should be fucking polite to everyone that you meet online until you guys decide to be friends.
Yep.
And, you guys start talking a little bit more. And it doesn't matter if they're male or female. If you meet a new friend online and you start shit talking right away, they're probably not going to be your friend for very long. Yep. Just be polite to them. And once you start breaking those barriers, that's how you break barriers even in real life with people. Some jokes you can get away with some people. Some jokes doesn't fly. And you just got to be aware. I mean, it's harder to do online because you don't have that physical aspect where you can see the reaction of the person. But if you listen closely, you can hear it in their voice if it bothers them or not. So that's a really rough water to go through. But of course, if you become friends with a female on games and she starts shit talking you, it's probably safe to say you probably start shit talking back. But again, that's a very fine line with the barrier that you kind of have to keep an eye on. So just be careful with who you're gaming with and what you're saying to people, because sometimes you can say something to somebody and it just completely ruins their day and you won't know because you don't see them physically. You don't see them just be like, throw their hands in the air and be like, I'm done. You don't get to see that on games and stuff. So,
and you don't know what impacts people. Mm-hmm. Like a guy came on a server a couple days ago, and like the first thing he said is, I just want to let you guys know that my mom was just diagnosed with cancer. She wasn't. He was kidding. But that's not funny. Like my grandmother just died of cancer, who was like my mother. And who knows, maybe someone we're playing with has cancer. Like, you don't just go in a server and say something like that. And I said that to him once we went live, because there was only 5 people that could talk to me versus the 10. And I'm like, dude, like, you really shouldn't come in and say things like that. Like, you don't know, like that impacted me, probably impacted other people. Super disrespectful. And I don't think you would walk into a room and say that as a joke, because that would be super embarrassing and dumb of you. So
No.
I think what this stems from, which I talked about a lot yesterday, is education and advocacy. Not only do we need to be educating and being advocates for people that are our age and for people that are gamers, but we need to be educating the parents, because a lot of parents don't know a ton about what's happening online, what games their kids are playing, yet they tell their kids, when you go to school, don't call Tommy fat, don't push Susie on the bus. But there's no talk about how to treat people on the internet. There's no talk on what's acceptable and what is unacceptable. So this needs to start right off the bat, not only with our peers and with gamers, but with the parents.
It's because people forget. People forget that just because you're behind a computer screen doesn't mean that you're not interacting with another person who is behind the same computer screen. Like, you have to remember at the end of the day, like, a computer isn't a magical machine controlled by a robot. I mean, I wish it was. I really do, because robots are badass.
Guys, I have to say that I am
Madison.com. Those are confirmed bots that you're
those are confirmed bots. You're right. I'm a little bit older than most of everybody at the table, and I think there is a generational gap that stems and creates a little bit of a slight issue with the understanding of how we should behave on the internet. And you're right, it should start with parenting. It should start with at home. But a lot of parents use the computer, the TV, and things that are technology based to babysit your child so you can go away and do whatever it is you're going to do. I'm not saying anybody at the table does that. Minecraft was my kid's best friend for about a month while I got some things done. So it's okay. I'm not judging anybody for that type of parenting. But there is a sense of responsibility that you have to have to your child to at least be able to connect with people outside of the box that is whatever they're looking at. When my daughter first started to get into online gaming, I totally freaked out because it wasn't in my frame of reference. Even though I myself an online gamer and have been on the computer for years, it didn't really hit me until she started to have conversations with people that I was like, who are you talking to? What did they just say? And then I heard some conversations that were being said to her about being a real grill and where's your boobs? And she's like 10. And I was like, oh my God, this is not my life right now. So it does start at home, but there's some parents that just won't do it. And
well, so what I think about that is then we need to be going to the schools, we need to be talking to administrators, and that's what I did in college. I led a whole entire discussion for parents about behaviors in online gaming. And
so Holly, that being said, how does Roundtable Media work that into our situation?
Yes, so we have a lot of new people in here tonight, which we're super excited about. We want to just let you know why we're here. Like, obviously we love talking to each other and we're great friends and all of that, and woo, it's fine and dandy. But for those of you that don't know exactly why we're here, our mission here at Ladies of the Roundtable and Roundtable Media as a whole is to foster and expand the next generation of leaders, and specifically their interest in science, technology, art, engineering, and math fields by supporting our, as we like to say, STEAM education initiative. So we are all about education, we're all about diversity, and we're all about community. It's about educating children and the public through these fields, through video games, comics, cartooning, and just bringing together a diverse group of people and all of the interests that we have, regardless of our age, race, gender, background. We don't see those things. We want to be able to talk about the things that we're passionate about and make it a safe space for everybody. So we're able to do these things by bringing awareness here. So you guys are participating in that. You guys as guests are helping with that, as well as convention programming. We will go and do panels and speak about this. Like I said, I really, really, truly believe that the things that I said yesterday impacted so many people. And I was there on behalf of all of us ladies at the table, and people were just, we're shocked. And that to me means we need to continue doing this. So if you guys are out there and you guys have some type of organization or you're an educator or whatever, and you want us to come speak, please check out our website. There's a section on there where you can go for bookings. And really, I really highly recommend you do that, because this is something that we all need to be a part of collectively to really make a true difference. And with that, we absolutely love you guys. And we thank you so much for just being here tonight, for supporting us, for supporting the vision. And that's how we're able to make this difference together.
And we wouldn't be able to do it without
one quick thing onto that. Actually, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to talk out of turn.
Okay.
I wanted to talk about science for just a second about what you're talking about. So look, I am an engineer. I think a lot about outcomes and effective strategy. So I was speaking with a political scientist that specializes in dealing with climate change deniers. So I called him up on the phone because he wrote a really great article from Vox. And I was like, how can we effectively talk to these people that have problematic behavior? What is the effective way? How can you get that message out there? And what he said to me was absolutely fascinating. And I'm going to spread this message as widely as I can. You can't change someone's opinion by arguing with them online, but you can change their behavior. So like you gave that example of like, hey, don't talk to me like that in chat. That joke about cancer is not funny. That's not acceptable. The goal there isn't to argue and make him have a different opinion about that, is to change the behavior. So then psychologically, the behavior change ends up changing the opinion over time. So, that's a lot of call out culture has problems. And I don't like that we have created this culture where someone is like one mistake away from being a sexist for life. I don't think that's fair. But I think in trying to get people to slowly change their behavior, I think that's the way we win. And I think the science shows it.
I think, Pixie, we've got a couple chat questions we need to get to because we're running behind on the chat, but we want to make sure you guys are involved as well. Please use that hashtag SpaceCat to be able to get into the chat and get your questions in there for either the guest and or ourselves. Go, Pix. We got two, I think.
Yeah. So this is actually a really interesting question. And I find it interesting because there's the statistic that's going around that 54% or 48%, I forget what it is, that a certain percentage of gamers are now female.
44%.
Yeah. And it's a very interesting statistic. There's a lot of argument over whether or not that statistic is valid and what it really covers. And so the question is, how do we change the games that are made and how do we influence them? And so this question I thought was really interesting, and is it a concern that if you win away from a Caucasian lead in a game, you might have issues sales-wise?
Well, let me address that. Something I feel like we're all working on a problem together. So Nita Sarkeesian focuses on the output of the industry. So when someone shipped this game, right? This is a game that's kind of sexist, right? She would critique this output. What I tend to focus on as a game developer is focusing on the input side of that equation. So she asks, why is Grand Theft Auto so sexist? I ask, why doesn't Harmonix have more women working on their team? What are the hiring practices that lead to that environment? What is the industry doing wrong that it can't keep women in this field without us quitting? Let me tell you a story about walking out of GDC at 2013. So I was crossing the street from Moscone West to Moscone East, and there, standing in the middle of the street, is a woman in a bikini, and she was gorgeous. But she's sitting there passing out flyers to a rock star party. So here we are with the way Rockstar is representing itself to other professionals in the field. And it's like, hey, bikini girl inviting you out to a party. And that's something that doesn't make me go, hey, let me raise my hand. I want to go work for me. And, I've heard those stories from behind the scenes. So how do we change that? I think we've got to create an environment where we put pressure on game studios to hire more women. I think we have to create a journalism culture where they feel pressure to hire more women. As far as the sales question, that's crap, okay? I gotta be straight up with you. You have minorities out there and people that are other than white, and the numbers clearly show if you represent people in game, they will buy it. Go look at Fast and Furious. This is a great example. It's not starring a bunch of white dudes. It's starring a bunch of people across a lot of different ethnicities. You have a lot of different genders represented. A lot of different body types for that. So, this idea that we have to slave away to the free market and make games for straight white dudes is bullshit. There's an entire market out there that's salivating for product to be represented. So the opposite is true. If you're following the market, the numbers, the facts, the science shows you women are not represented. Women don't have enough games. Black people don't have enough games. We're blowing it. We are really blowing it.
Coming from the retail side of that is where I see this all the time during the daytime. It depends on what area you're in, on what games will sell and what will not sell, obviously. If you are more in the South, certain games sell more than ones more in the North. Perfect example, sports games. NHL, Texas, nobody cares. You know what game is really big in Texas? Madden, and in lower half of Texas, FIFA. That's because that's what's represented in those areas, and that's what people care about. You go up north, NHL is where it's at. That's all everyone wants to play. So it's an interesting thing, just coming from retail and being like, it's not something that you hear out loud very often, but I have heard it from time to time, like, oh, it's a girl, I don't want to play that. I think it was like Tomb Raider.
Yeah.
And I was like, you're 10, shut up. This game is amazing. The kid bought it, came back a week later, was like, right, the game was awesome. So it's like one of those things where it's either really young people, they're like, I don't want to play that. Or it's people that are so stuck in a certain mindset where it's not as many people as what they actually think that are actually vocal about having a different gender, a different race, or a different anything in the game.
You're absolutely right. If you're looking at the core gamer, there are some of those traditional core gamers that are jerks. If you talk about having a game with Lara Croft, the problem is you have this entire huge untapped market over here that's so much bigger than the existing market, that because this culture is so terrible, they don't even walk into a GameStop. They don't even want to get in. Like I talk to people all the time. They say, "Oh, I don't game. It just seems bad." So we have a certain consumer base that is so trained to feel like they are the center of the entire universe that they are like a magnet pushing everything else away. So what we have a responsibility to do in this industry is to change the culture and start bringing these people in. I've got news for you. You can go to caves where humans were living in caves and like throwing spheres and see humans developing games that they like played on walls with chalk. Okay, humans like to play games, period. It is human nature, all of us. So like this idea that it's just like these straight white dudes or like this one stereotype is just a lie,
It really is. And when I see so many different kinds of people that come into my store every single day and they buy different kinds of games, and a lot of times they don't care about how the character looks in the game. They ask about the gameplay. How does this game play? And I don't sit there and be like, yeah, it's this big strapping white dude that goes through here and blows stuff up. I'm like, no, this is a tactical shooter. This does this. And they're like, oh, that sounds really great. That's really interesting. How can I play this? Or like when Prototype 2 came out, people bought that one based on what the game was about, not what the character was. So it's this really weird mix because sometimes you can argue the character, of course, is like if there's a female in a game, I'm absolutely going to be more enticed to play it. But if the story sucks, why would I want to play that game just because there's a female character in it? Right. So it's this really weird balance that you have to try to find. And, just from me being retail side, I see both sides of that happen every single day, where there are people who care less on what's in the game, and there's that one dude every 3 weeks that actually cares about who's in the game. Again, it's when I'm talking to somebody about a game, I am an associate that will not sell you a game just because it needs to be sold. I will find out what games you like to play, and we will talk about what your favorite game is, and what did you buy recently? What did you like about that game? Cool, let's find you something that's new, that's different, that's something that's very familiar for you that you're going to like, but it's going to be for you. And that's kind of the way my company has been starting to go a little bit more. I'm sorry if you have a bad experience with some other stores. It's not my store. Come to my store. We totally but it's you have hit or miss. That's, you can go to Walmart, you can go to Target, you can find bad associates wherever you go. I don't care where you're.
Absolutely.
I want to interject that the consistent running theme for most people who are in love with their fandom, whether it be gaming, comics, sci-fi novels, TV, whatever it is, movies, is the escapism and trying to find where you relate. So most people that are going to buy something spend their hard-earned money, and nowadays it is very difficult. People have a budget. If you got kids, hell, you're like, listen, kids, one day I would like to buy a game that I want to play, not just what you want to play. You want to find where you can make that avatar, that character that is like you and or close as you're going to get, and you want to have some of those options that you can do that. And again, we've all agreed that part of the market, large part of the market, is missing, where you have Afro-Americans, you have transgender, you have people that are various different shapes, colors, and sizes that can't do that and feel like they're being left out or being excluded. And what we all say as nerds, geeks, whatever you want to call yourself, blurs, is we're tired of being left out.
Yes.
Ultimately, what this all comes down to in the game industry, when it comes to like game creation, is money. It's all money. So the biggest thing is we have to prove that there is an actual market for this, which means when games come out, you need to buy them if they're interesting like this. Like, that is a huge thing. Like, you can't just sit there and go, well, maybe. Because if your whole point is, like, you want a proof of concept, yeah, the game can suck and be totally horrible, freely admit it. But, like, I want more amazing women like Lara Croft. So I could give two if that game was horrible, I'm buying it.
But we need more than that. Like, I run a studio. Do you know how few women I meet on the venture capital scene? Also, like, raising money for the studio, pitching games, hiring engineers, like learning all this stuff. We need more Brianna Wu's out there. We do, because like I can't, like my goal is to build the next Activision for women, but I can't do this just by myself. And like, listen, I gotta tell you, being a game dev, the only personality trait that really matters is being stubborn. Like there's a certain threshold of intelligence you have to have, but like, I gotta be honest, when you have software problems, it's just Googling Stack Overflow, like, no, you can do this job, trust me. Like, there's something in the game industry you can do. So what we need is women to step up, believe in themselves, and go chase their dreams of being game developers, because my job is fucking awesome, right? Like, I get to write games and produce them for a living. That is awesome, right?
That is really cool. And I do want to see, I mean, like Pixie, that's just the one thing I can't agree with. There's a lady in it, the game sucks. I would love to support it, but put your all into it and make it awesome.
But the problem is I think a huge part of it is we have to prove that there's markets for these things. We can say there's a market all we want. It doesn't matter what we say. We have to put our money where our mouth is.
Well, absolutely. And developers have to create inspiring games.
Yeah.
Well, a good game or a bad game is chocolate and vanilla. I mean, I could think Counter-Strike's the best game in the world, and someone else is going to think it's a piece of shit. So, I've never thought about it that way, Pixie, and I actually will now think of it that way because I really like that. The opposite way I do think of it is I don't support companies that bring out bullshit games that have females in roles like we know. I don't even need to say what type of roles. I don't support companies like that whatsoever. And people always, when I stream, people are always like, "Oh, are you going to play GTA 5?" Fuck no, I'm not going to play GTA 5. I'm sorry, but I'm not going to.
Let's think of it from a perspective of Bree. We have a developer sitting right here who has the burden of trying to create something that makes us all happy, and that cannot be an easy damn job. I don't.
It's not. Yeah.
So let's go ahead and let you speak on that perspective of how do you create something that you want to be able to survive as a company, yet you still have to be able to fill that market need and or excluding someone, because you can't make all of us happy.
Well, I think if you're a company of X size, like you can market test stuff to a point. I'm more on the large indie dev side. Like we have actual people that get paid, and have their job to come into work every day. So I think like you've got to be really passionate about what it is you love. Like for me, Rev 60, if you play Revolution 60, it is 24 with hot girls in space, right? Like, I love gorgeous women. Like, the Holiday's butt can I tell you how much time I spent working on Holiday's butt to have it gorgeous? Like, I love beautiful women. I just do, that said, we brought it out and the consumer was clearly saying, we want more body type diversity. We want X, we want Z. We love their personalities. We love the concept, but we need to do it differently. So, you can't predict a game. And it's like, look, when this game came out, The Evil Within, people didn't, I didn't read any stories like, can games with male protagonists survive? Like, it's not like betting the entire farm every single time a game comes out with a dude in it, So, look, there are going to be plenty of games with women that suck, just like there are plenty of games with dudes that suck, For me personally, I find that for me, emotional connection with my protagonist is really, really important. The new Batman game, Arkham Asylum, as a developer, I'm sitting there and I'm marveling at the rigging, at the poly count, at the ZBrush pass, at the particle effects. It's beautiful. But that Batman is such a loathsome, terrible version of Batman. I can't connect with him. And I haven't played that game for more than like 5 hours because of it. The converse of that is if there's a woman character in a game, that emotional connection goes up for me and I'm more likely to enjoy it, So I think it's a bit of I'm not saying I like this game to lie about it. I'm saying like having a female protagonist is extremely important to me.
And by the way, if you didn't know how much Bree loves 24 and Kiefer Sutherland, you do now. Little tidbit Easter egg for you for Rev 60.
It's true. It's true. Holiday was inspired by Renee Walker of 24 season 7. So I love that show a ridiculous amount.
Dude, chat questions coming up. Tiffany, what you got?
We have from Caboose. How do the ladies feel about big companies making money by selling a new game every year, such as Bungie's Destiny? If you don't mind, I'd like to take that one first because coming out on Tuesday, midnight launch, big surprise. It's games like Destiny. When that game came out, we didn't get the whole thing. And that's exactly how I feel. I thought that I had more story going on in that game, and I put it off. Something else came out, and I started playing it. I'm like, you know what? I'm going to go finish Destiny. I go on there. I had 5 minutes left. How did I play this game and not know I only had 5 minutes left to finish the story is beyond me, which tells me that game was too short. Expansion 1 comes out. Expansion 2 comes out. Guess what? Those are another $35. Guess what? Taken King that's coming out is $40. Unless you buy this other that's $59.99, but it comes with Expansion 1, 2, Destiny, the original game, and Taken King. That is infuriating for me as a consumer. That's a lot of money spent on one game. I do like Destiny. I think it's fun. I feel like Expansion 1 and 2 should have been packaged into the original game, and Taken King could have come out last year instead of a year later. I've seen some things about what their supposedly 10-year plan is with that. I think it's really ridiculous. I really do. But new games coming out every year, there's differences in that because, say, Call of Duty. Again, Call of Duty has 3 different companies that works on that game. So it's not the same developers working on that game every single year. It's produced by Activision. You have Infinity Ward. You have Treyarch. You have the other one. Sledgehammer. Sledgehammer did Advanced Warfare. So you have Sledgehammer. So it's 3 different companies working on 3 different titles that get released every single year, but they're in a rotation. So there's that. Sports games are sports. They update rosters and stuff. So that's whatever. 1 year Madden changed the grass, and I was like, cool, whatever. NHL, though, this year, I've been talking to Chad about NHL. NHL did some major overhauls this year, so it's completely different than it was the last year. So that is something that you would see within a couple year difference. It's like, why didn't this happen sooner?
I have to give you some pushback on that. I have to, from the dev side.
Go right ahead.
How much do you think Destiny cost Bungie to develop?
Develop? I don't even know.
$500 million. $500 million.
I knew it was a lot, but
so if Destiny is sold in your store, how much of that do you think Bungie gets like directly to reimburse their development costs? Like it's a $60 game. What percentage of that do you think they get?
to be
After
honest with
marketing,
you, I don't worry about that part because
Sure.
as a store manager, I worry
Sure.
about how much money I'm going to make.
Totally.
I
So,
understand the differences between selling a new game and a pre-owned game and
Sure,
all, and all the development.
I'm gonna throw
my
in a
point, well,
lot.
let me finish. So my point is Destiny is a game that they really made a huge 10-year bet on.
Mhm.
So like I am seeing this with like the VC meetings and the partners that they brought in to fund it. And I know so many people that worked on that team and they made a big, huge bet. There's meant to be, like you said, a 10-year plan over time. They have to reimburse that money. At the end of the day, game business is about making money. And I feel sometimes that the consumer drives the conversation so much in a way it's detached from reality. Like the sports upgrades that you're talking about. A lot of the fees every single year for those games goes for licensing it through MLB and like paying players for their image. So yes, you're correct.
Which is why we don't have NCAA anymore.
Correct. Like for a technical perspective, things have not changed, but the reality is updating that content is not, as engineers call it, trivial. It's a non-trivial task. So, you know, I think the consumer has been trained to not value what devs do to the table. And I know the consumers have no idea how expensive it is to develop games. So when you see a game like Destiny with a 10-year plan, when you see a game like Far Cry 4 that's like a year of DLC coming out for it, that's just trying to recoup these exploding dev costs. And, you know, that's just capitalism. So,
well, yeah, I mean, it comes down to the point, though, where, okay, you have to pay for these things.
mm-hmm.
So are games too cheap? Should we be paying more for games than $59.99? And this comes into another aspect where I would agree with you. If I'm going to pay $80 for something, I'm expecting the content. I'm expecting this stuff. That's fine. I will pay more for that content. I get it. But when you have other games out there where, so this is where I have this conversation a lot with people where they think that paying $59.99 is too much. And I'm like, are you kidding me? Seriously, you're kidding me. For Skyrim, you're paying $59 for thousands of hours that you've spent in Mass Effect, for the hundreds of thousands of hours you're going to spend in Star Wars Battlefront, Destiny, Fallout 4. All of these games are really big, massive open world games. You're like, I shouldn't be paying $59 for it. So I'm like, what? No, are you kidding me? So then there comes to a point where you get like Madden and Call of Duty and games that do come out on a yearly basis. They're like, these are just expansion packs. They should be $49, $39. I'm like, no, they're not. There's different things going on with different developers. And then it becomes the whole other story all over that. So it's tough because, you know, they need to put those expansions out to make more money on those. But then you have the pushback from the customers that don't want to pay more than $60. But then they get upset when you have to pay more for something. With Destiny, I was upset with expansion 1 and 2 because it was right after the game came out. And like when I finished the game, when you finish something, you kind of expect, okay, well, what's next? You know, a show ends, a season ends, a series of a TV show ends. They leave you with that cliffhanger. You're like, I can't wait for the new stuff to come out. If a game ends and I'm disappointed because there's not more of it and I know I have to wait for the next expansion to come out to feel finished with that game, that's where me as a consumer gets disappointed in having to pay extra to play that little bit extra. Destiny in itself has been a nightmare to sell because of all the different expansions, the requirements for them. And now with Taken King coming out, the expansions that are required for Taken King to even have to play it. We are not allowed to sell just the Taken King in stores because we have to explain it requires expansion 1 and expansion 2 and the game in order to play it, which is why there's a legendary edition that comes with all 4 pieces for $59. Shove that in someone's face who bought all of that stuff last year, and now you have to pay more money to get the next part. But the people that are just picking up it now get it all for $60, the same price that you paid last year, which you probably paid more for because you probably got the special edition that was $79 or $100 or whatever the one that you got. So it's crazy.
That's supply and demand, though.
It's commonplace when you talk about game industry as well.
It's like buying a Note 5 the week it comes out and buying it 6 months later. There's $100 price drop.
Mm-hmm.
Like, that's technology for you. The second something comes out, it's obsolete because there's something else for it.
You understand that, but the basic public doesn't understand that.
Well, I think there's also a distinction. And, I feel like sometimes with these conversations, we frame it like it's a moral failing of consumers, that for some consumers, $60 is a lot of money. And I have to say, like, the generation that's out there now, when I was a teenager, when I got out of college, like, it was the dot-com boom. It gave me a really solid chance to get my foot in the door, to start developing skills. And, the truth is, like, for this generation, $60 is a lot of money for way too many people. And I think it's a symptom of an economy where we're all struggling. So I have empathy for that consumer that really has to think about $60. At the same time, I have to make a living too. Developing games is very expensive. I have to pay the women that work at my studio, a living wage. So, there are just realities here. As far as Destiny itself, Bungie keeping the servers up and running, I don't know how particularly they do that, but it's expensive. I think people don't understand how expensive that is. And they've foregone this monthly fee and instead gone with this constant upgrade plan, which is confusing to consumers, but it's just trying to keep the lights on,
Then you also have to have the aspect of, we see so many studios laying off people, closing, and these are some of the reasons why, because they're not recouping those costs over that 10-year plan or 7-year plan or 5-year plan where they've projected sales based upon the industry standard, which right now happens to be right around that price point. Go ahead, Pixie. I see you over there.
Yeah, and I think some of this has to do with why Destiny did what it did. I'm going to defend Destiny here for a second.
I love Destiny.
Cell phone games have done incredibly well. Incredibly well. Games that are free to play and you buy content that's extra later have done incredibly well. Look at League of Legends, Dota, Smite. All of the MOBAs, free to play, all you pay for like extra diddly doos in the game. They have done incredibly well. And I think part of that is because of the mentality that some people have towards games where $60 is a lot of money. Yeah. And that's not really something they can afford. So if you're allowed to pay for it in pieces, it's a lot more manageable. And I think that a lot of people and a lot of companies are starting to pick up on that, and they're starting to use it to their advantage. And I think Destiny actually did an amazing job of doing that with its DLCs. Yeah. Because if you look at the way DLCs used to be, I mean, let's look at BioShock. BioShock, like, my favorite game in all of history. The DLCs for all of the BioShocks are just extra. Like, you don't necessarily have to have them, but, like, they're fantastic to have. But you still had to pay the upfront cost to get all of BioShock. And so it's one of those things where I think they're trying to strategically market the game based on the way that other games are being marketed now, like the free-to-plays.
Holly, go ahead with some chat questions. I know you guys have been waiting to get those in there. Apologize, conversation is getting deep. So we're gonna dig ourselves out of the Destiny conversation.
Yeah, and I've said nothing.
We're throwing down.
Yeah,
and
I don't play Destiny, and I don't give two shits, to be honest. So sorry. I don't know anything about it. But anyways, so we have a great question, really great question from Gaming Gems. I've been playing Final Fantasy Record Keeper nonstop since just after launch. But because it's a mobile game, it wouldn't be considered a real game. I raid in Warcraft, but I play Record Keeper more than I have played WoW in months. Do you feel people's attitudes to what a real game and who plays them is changing? I'm going to take it first. Yes, it is changing, and it's showing in how much money they're making. So a girl that I sat with yesterday on the panel, she's the head of Mob Crush, which is like Twitch, but for mobile apps, for mobile games. And they did like 3 whole panels on mobile gaming and how it is just freaking blowing up. There's professional teams, there's professional leagues. This is like big time. And it also ties into a lot of things with gender as well, because there's more of an anonymous factor than there is on a lot of games that are online that we may play on PC or console, etc. So I personally, from their numbers that was given yesterday, I was very shaped by that, because I don't personally care for mobile gaming, and that doesn't mean that it's bad or whatever. I just don't like it, just like I don't like sport games. But I didn't realize like how amazing they are doing. Do I think people's minds are changing? I think some. I think it's going to be hard for people who may be stubborn and old like myself. I have a hard time seeing that as gaming. I mean, but does that make it any less of gaming for someone else that thinks it's gaming? Hell no. That's just my opinion of how I feel about it. But I mean, people think PC gaming is a joke. So it's just kind of like to each their own. But dude, the money is popping on that. It's big time. And Pixie hit on that too. So what do you guys think about that?
I never want to hear anyone say X is a real game again. X is not a real game. I'm tired of it. It's stupid. It's juvenile. It is not accurate. It's like, look, my husband and I have probably played about 3,000 or 4,000 hours of Peggle. We are the most hardcore Peggle players. And someone told me Peggle is not a real game. And oh my God, I can tell you, I was talking to people that developed Peggle, and I know more about that game than they do because I've played it so much. So, like, it's just not helpful. And, you know, all too often, let's talk about what real game stuff is really about. This is about a little camp for people to set their identities in, to say, hey, we are real gamers. We are the real culture. If you're not with us, you're not one of them. It's people trying to protect their identity, and it's bullshit. It is bullshit.
Look, if your identity is so wrapped up in your status as a gamer, like, you need to really figure out your life.
You need to open a window, bro.
Open a window.
I'm just saying, like, and that's coming from me. Okay, and you guys know I live in this room, like 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. Like, that's what I do. So if you're hearing this from me, like, you've got a problem. I really wish it would just come down to like Master Race. Like, let's not talk in terms of like what's a real game. Let's talk in terms of like what operating system is obviously Master Race status.
Oh no!
And let's just go ahead and throw like Android and iPhone into there, because who cares?
Geez.
Why not do that?
Mod Hammer. Damn, we're not even gonna go that conversation because PC Master Race. But anyway,
we all know Master Race. We all know this.
We'll agree to disagree as we do on the show most days. Man, there's a lot of chat questions rolling in, and
so much. It's
OMG, guys. If you guys haven't noticed in the chat, there's a giveaway going on for your Rainbow Six beta codes.
Oh.
So if you want to get your hands on that beta code, hit the, go ahead. You're going to burst.
No, go ahead.
Okay. Hit the giveaway one more time, because it's going to close in less than 2 minutes, guys. Rainbow Six giveaway up for grabs. We just gave out gigantic closed beta key. We've got 2 more of each throughout the show. And don't forget, Geek Fuel giveaway over at the website, lortnation.com. Pixie.
Oh, yeah. Just while we're talking mobile games real quick, let's go ahead and throw out some like awesome shout outs for Fallout Shelter. Super Boss already threw up some info in the chat. It's officially on Android now. I was so excited. Day of August 13th, I was like, I gotta get my hands on this crack. So like, if you like Fallout, go for it. Bethesda, shout outs to you. You're amazing.
There she goes. She got her shout out in. You ran Bree from the room. Oh, look, we lost 2 people. Was I that bad?
You were.
God. No.
OMG. PC Master Race, Super Freak 2. All right, we're voting. All right, guys. MVP of the chat seems to be by far Ed. We're way up. Ed's getting in there. Utter, somebody's working on grabbing your belt. I don't know where you're at, man, but Ed is really racking up the points. How many people entered this giveaway? Let me take a look. 4 people. Really? Rainbow 6. I'll take a key. You know what?
Can I enter?
Because I don't have a key. We don't have keys. We're giving them away to you. So if you want to enter, I need Ty to throw up that enter keyword one more time. There you go. And it's easy peasy, guys. Throw it up there. Grab your free swag. It's free, man. I told Pixie she scared you away.
No. I was I had an emergency. We'll keep it.
The dog. Uh-oh.
It was the dog.
So now that you're back, I have a fundamental question that has been on my mind for a little while, and I haven't got to ask you. How did you decide to, and why did you decide to name the studio Giant Space Cat?
So my favorite game of all time is Space Channel 5. Every time I meet someone that's formerly worked at Sega, I am constantly trying to meet people on the Sega development team because I would love to take and do Space Channel Part 3, Space Channel 5 Part 3. I have so many ideas for that. So the very first line of Space Channel 5 is, "Hey there, Space Cats. This is Ooh La La coming at you from Spaceport 9. So we looked at Space Cat, and it was a little bit legally murky if we could use that, so we made it Giant Space Cat. That's the story.
That is some trivia for you, man. That could be an Easter egg in whatever your DLC is coming up. You guys
I think if you look at the art style of Revolution 60, you can see that it's very inspired by Space Channel 5. Yes!
Look at that!
Yes. Got it. Yeah, me too. I've got it right.
Winner!
What do you think? Do you love Space Channel 5?
So, okay. So I just had to run and get this because I Googled it because I'm like, that name sounds really familiar. And then I'm like, oh my gosh, I fucking love this game.
I love that game.
So I just went to my PlayStation 2 games, ran over there and grabbed it out. Freaking awesome. Look at her. Hello.
Yeah.
Hello.
Gorgeous.
Yeah.
Gorgeous.
Great game.
Love that game.
How to do that.
Holly's like a kid over there right now. She's shining. She's so excited. She's just so happy. Awesome.
I need an entertainment center
closing soon.
at once.
Let's hear Tiff. Can you throw up another chat question because I see they were rolling past me.
Oh, sure. Yeah, there's a couple of them here. I'm gonna go up to some of the older questions that got asked. They got passed up because they were kind of not on subject, but now we're kind of in a weird space now. So let's see here. Where did it go?
Giveaway closing soon. Last call. Yeah, I see somebody asked, which would be Utterly, Brianna, what do you think about the transactions? Do we really need them? Or have we seen too much of them lately? We constantly talk about this question.
Yeah, so look, developers will give you any monetization scheme consumers will pay for. Look, we would love for it just to be $60, but as she said, a lot of people increasingly are showing the consumer prefers a pay as you go model. Microtransactions, they're a pain in the butt to implement. You've got credit card transaction fees. I think they lessen the game design. I can tell you people I talk to in the game industry don't love it. But if the consumers are buying them, our mission is to make money. So I would throw that around on you. Why do you think consumers keep funding this? I personally, I'm a software engineer. I am blessed enough that, if I want to buy a costume for $3 or $4, I don't really have to think about that. So I don't mind that. What I really, 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 really mind is, Plants vs. Zombies 2 implemented microtransactions that will let you pay to win. And the problem with that is then it takes your faith away from the game designers with the difficulty curve that they've created, and you're constantly going, Am I not good enough? Am I failing? Or do I need to pay some money? So I'm very against microtransactions that harm game design, your trust in the team that built it, but I don't have some sort of religious objection to them.
Oh, sorry, I was reading the chat. Super, you're right. Wildstar PTR is out, and most, if not 97% of their microtransactions are cosmetic. So you really don't need to pay to win. However, this action of laying off developers and people in the studio and going down to a free-to-play model because they cannot afford to support the game has changed the play style overall. I can tell you what you're playing now is completely overhaul of what you were playing when you were playing as a sub.
So I have a great question. Well, I don't. Actually, it's from Luca, 1995. I almost told
Holly, can you let them know what the hashtag is? I see people in chat wanting to ask questions, and if there we go.
Yes.
Thanks, Tiff.
So guys, okay, yes, Tiff's doing it. It's hashtag SpaceCat. There, she hit it. Awesome. So Luca, 1995. Amazing question. I almost tried to take it as my own question. So can you you're going to kill this question. Like, I cannot wait to hear your answer. Can you give some advice on how to inspire the next generation of girls to become excited about a career in game development? And what's the greatest thing about being a woman in your field?
So the greatest thing, guys, look, I've been to the parties that the guys in our field have thrown, and I've been to the parties that the women in our field throw. And I could tell you whose friendships are better. I could tell you who's throwing the better party. I could tell you who's more fun to hang out with. Like, I love the women in game development. I love the journalists. I love my fellow developers. I love engineers. We're some of the most passionate, awesome women you will ever meet anywhere. It is the coolest club of people that exists. So I love that I'm able to have some of these really close friendships with people I respect. As far as how to get young girls interested in this, what I love about my job, it is this beautiful mix of art and computer science. So I get to write a story, but then I also get to figure out the frameworks and the API and implement skeletal meshes and like bring in a matinee or blueprint and program these nodes. So it's this beautiful mix of like having a vision of like a character that I want to meet, and then getting to do the art to like bring her to life. I mean, how many of you you drew princesses or whatever in your notebooks growing up, right? Like, you can turn that into a career, and it's awesome. So the approach I take when I'm trying to, I'm going to go give this talk at a school soon, is, we're going to have like a female character in Maya, and we're going to let young girls sit down, and we're going to teach them to animate, how to make her like wave at the camera. And I think that spark of doing something creative, but also computer sciencey at the same time, I think it gives girls the confidence that they can do this, because everything about society, guys, let's just be honest, everything about society is telling girls, you can't do this. You're not good enough. You're not smart enough. Your only worth is your looks. Shut up, be pretty, like do A, B, and C. And it's so hard being, a woman in society. So I think it's just like helping build people up.
I have to say something about that, Bree, because what I come across in my everyday work, doing what I do and being an advocate for women in the industry and trying to get women to come together is a little bit of resistance, or maybe a lot, from other women in the industry who feel that either they've had a situation where they're burned and or are very standoffish about working with other women because they feel I'm going to take something from them. Not my hand is out and let's help each other. It's I'm threatened by you, whether it's because I am a go-getter and I want to get things done, and or the flip side of being standoffish myself because I don't want to invade the space and have you feel that I'm a threatening personality. Yeah. What do you say to that kind of other side of the door?
I'd be straight up with them and just be honest. Like, I remember being in junior high and thinking the Mean Girls thing was going to pass, right? The truth is we grow up and Mean Girls keeps going on. Women are kind of trained to be horrible to each other sometimes. And it's sometimes true in the industry. The things that have hurt me the most this year have been women in this field that have, done the mean girls thing. So I'm going to be honest to say that is there, but I will say it's also changing. And I think I see it a lot less with women between 20 and 30. So I think it's just kind of drawing a line in the sand and like finding a new way to do things. I'll tell you, like any one of you today here in this chat with me, like reach out to me if you need to know someone for a job or a media connection. Like I help anyone I can. And I think like we've got to be so idealistic about supporting each other, right? Like all we have is each other at the end of the day.
Yeah. Maybe. We have a question. It's a harder and more interesting question. Well, not that all these are not interesting, but it's for you, and it's from Mendamendo. How come you talk? Oh my gosh! Sorry, Tiff typed and it rolled it down.
I'm sorry.
You're okay. You're okay.
I got excited.
So how come you talk so much about sexism in gaming, and then you made a game with female characters that are overly sexualized?
I don't find them over sexualized. I find them, if you play my game, they're people first. Go pick up a Cosmo, right? Like it's gorgeous women on the cover of it. Go watch Style, gorgeous women. Go watch E! Entertainment News, gorgeous women. I like looking at hot girls. Like, do you all like looking at hot girls? I don't think I'm alone, right? Like when I think about,
ladies. They're so pretty.
Right. And so it's like, when I sit down and draw, I draw the most beautiful woman that I can. But my intention, like if you play Revolution 60, we don't point the camera at their boobs. You're not going to see boob jiggles. They're like the camera pans across them.
Boobs.
Yeah, we don't do that. You don't see like Holiday, oh, let me go get that and like turn over. We don't do that. We play the women as people first. And I get this crap from Gamergators. And look, it's play my game. They are strong, awesome people, full voice acting, 4 hours of fully animated story. You will care about these people. And the truth is, like, a woman can be sexy as hell and still be a person. Like the intent of the creator is what matters. So yeah, play my game. Play it. Because I don't think you have.
Well, and as someone I'm like I won't play GTA 5. I won't play Lollipop Chainsaw.
Yep.
The Witcher.
Yep.
I would play your game in a heartbeat. I don't see it as over sexualized. And if I don't, I feel like that's saying a lot because I am very, very, very picky about what I play, more than the average gamer. So that's kind of what
if I can say this, the PC version and the iOS re-release that we're doing, we did go back through and redo a lot of the costumes. So Holiday now is wearing very Mass Effect-like glowing, awesome armor, and she looks better. Yeah, have you seen it? Like
I love the revamp. They look so much better.
Yeah, it's a better design. Also, 5 years of working in game dev, you'll get better. So, like I heard that criticism, and we changed our designs. Going forward, you're going to see. You'll be the first people I tell this to. So, Rev 62, the operating script for it, one of the main characters is. I am very tall and skinny. I have, I was blind to the need that a lot of women gamers have to see their own body type represented. I was just blind to it. So what I kept hearing from women gamers is like, look, they want a girl that's like size 12, size 14, size 16, that's not the butt of a joke, that is cool and competent and pretty, but isn't a butt of a joke, right? So we're going to give that to them. And the character we have planned, like she is deadly competent, she is funny, and it's a character I love. And, you know, I'll tell you this, I was talking to the, you know, one of the artists behind the Gem reboot, the Gem comic the other day, about hopefully getting her on to help us redesign our characters, because she's done such a great job of representing different body types. So
Women with curves.
like, we hear it and we're trying to do better, but I'm going to, like, you called my past design sexist. It's bullshit. Like, a woman could be sexy and still be a person. And if you can't see that, it's your problem, you know?
Something I think, like, you know, when you talk about how you wanted like a tall, skinny character, because that's
Yeah.
representing you.
Yeah.
Being in art, every female artist that I follow, every single time they draw a female character,
Yeah.
if I've seen a picture of that person, I see something
Yes.
in them of that person. If you look
Yes.
at any of my drawings, a lot of them will have like my hands, like, because my hands are really weird, so I do like weird hands, or like the specific way I draw eyebrows is the way I draw my eyebrows. There's other artists that I've seen where I'm like, you have a bigger jaw, so all the characters have bigger jobs and more like bigger lips, and you see that a lot in just art in general. So it's one of those things that when it transfers to games, you want to see more of that, and that of course brings in, if you have more women designing the characters, they're going to put a little bit of themselves, and it's just be like any other art that you would. So that actually, I'm not sure if anybody else wants to comment on that, but there is another question that kind of leads into that I thought was really great from the chat. So Dark Soul 420 asks, what are your opinions on the overly masculine men in games? So I know we were just saying that, you know, we like to see most artists kind of put themselves into it. So what about the overly masculine men that are in games?
I think there's a very wide array of male archetypes in games. Much, much, much wider than there is of women. I can think of Otacon in the new Metal Gear, who is, you know, very geeky and kind of skinny. You know, there's Gears of War. I think the difference is, and I think a lot of dudes don't understand this, that when you see a hulking, muscular dude in Gears of War, that is empowering. That is a male power fantasy for you. When you see Quiet in Metal Gear Solid 5, who I will say is the worst character design I've ever seen in my entire life in any video game, period. She sucks. You know, that is objectification. It is, you know, it's not good. So, you know, I think like, you know, Anita Sarkeesian is doing an upcoming series on toxic masculinity, and I'm very happy about that, because I think men are kind of not well served in our culture, but it tells them you can't have feelings, you can't have emotions, you can't cry, you can't like things that are cute, you can't like things that are feminine, you have to deny these human emotions. I don't think that's helpful. And, you know, I think that video games probably have a large role in, you know, projecting toxic masculinity, but don't even try to equate like big muscular dudes to the objectification that women get, because it ain't the same. It's not even close to the same.
I think a lot of times too, when people think of like Gears of War in particular, with the way those dudes are, is they also remind me of Warhammer, like Space Marines. It's just really big, massive dudes, and every single character is designed that way. But you also have to look at it from a design aspect where, like, that's the style that it's in. You know, there are some characters that are created to be muscular and you know, a little bit more athletic, and then there are characters that are just big, bulking characters because that's how they are in their universe. Gears of War in particular, every character is big and bulking. Even the female character, she's big too. Like, she's not a skinny. Like, she's almost just as big as the dudes, and that's the style of that universe. So I mean, it's going to depend on what game you play, and the art style that goes along with it, I think, makes it a long way too. But there is a bunch of different
guys. I got to interject because Mondo just made a comment about female privilege. I'll have to tell you that it's not a privilege to be a female. And if you think that it is, you might want to have a conversation with other women in your life. And I'm not sure if you're male or female, but you might want to reevaluate that type of comment, because that is not tolerated in this chat. Privilege is something that is above and beyond others. Nor does anyone else at this table feel that we are above anyone else. So I'm just going to let you know right now that is not the case. We welcome you to have a conversation and to have a dialogue with us, but privilege is not a word that we're throwing around up in this chat. Travasta has spoken. Thank you. Next.
It's funny you're saying you should ask men about that.
So I'm gonna go from
Check, we're all
a
married.
completely different end of the spectrum. I think on a daily basis, we all objectify people, regardless of whether or not it's conscious. When I go to a bar and I see someone that I think is attractive, I am thusly objectifying them. That's just a fact. Like, they may be dumb as a box of rocks, but it doesn't mean that they can't have a rockin' hot bod. Like, it's a thing. It's a thing. It exists. We all do it. So I don't really know that I find it that negative to happen in video games. I think it's human because I think it happens in the real world and in the video game world. Do I think it's necessarily positive? Absolutely not. But do I think it's a fact and that it's something that is going to exist probably until the end of time? Absolutely.
Can I say something here? Like, the goal of feminism, or at least my feminism, I'm a sex-positive feminist. You know, my goal is not to obliterate all sexuality across the world. I think it's a good thing. I think that, there's feminism 101 and then there's like graduate level stuff. And, like, a lot of guys are stuck at like feminism 101. And there are deeper conversations to be had here about objectification, about being sex positive, So I will keep this very simple and say when you have one kind of body type, you see women consistently objectified and they have no agency in their own actions, that's a problem. Having people that you're attracted to in your life is not a problem. That is human nature,
Yeah, and I think that's why I think that this is such a weird issue. Because I think if I'm allowed to want somebody in a video game that I can be like, hey, I'm gonna scroll around you so I can like look at your butt. I do this. I freely admit it. Have no qualms with it. Like, guys, girls, doesn't matter if you're packing a nice booty, I'm all about that. All about that life. So like, if I can want that, I feel like it's perfectly normal for somebody else to want that too. And so I think it's an issue to say that something like this is an issue on the whole, because there are people who are going to be so happy with somebody else having a nice booty like I am. And there are going to be people who are like, I really want somebody who's like a normal person. I want like tall, skinny, lanky, like nerdy dude in this game where he's like working in a Starbucks. Oh, that's so stereotypical. I'm so sorry, Starbucks baristas. I am so offensive right now. But like, I feel like these are things that are very common, and I feel like they're things that are very typecast, which is something that I don't necessarily think is a bad thing. I think it's just a symptom of people's likes and dislikes and their wants, and I think it's, reinforced by the fact that these games are selling. And if they weren't, it would prove that there wasn't a market for this and that sex doesn't sell. But unfortunately, sex does sell and there is a market for it. Yes, absolutely. Oh, Mr. J, booty, 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 rocking everywhere.
I think there's a song that goes that way. Dude, Tiff has another chat question.
Yeah, there's a couple of them here. So we have one from, there's a couple here. Let's go.
There's like 7.
Yeah, there's a couple. So I'm trying to read through more of them.
Some of them have been answered.
Yeah, some of them have been kind of answered along the way. So I'm trying to screen through them here. Okay, so okay, so we'll go with one of Utter's questions. He usually has some pretty good questions. Is there any specific female and male video game character that you bond with, like John from Red Dead Redemption, for example, as he tries to move on with his life, but his past simply won't let him? I feel like maybe that's Utterly's character that he's connecting to for Red Dead. Is there a character that you've connected to real life-wise?
For me, I have a ridiculous love for Lara Croft. So if I look here on the shelf, how many copies of Tomb Raider 2013 do I have? I I could probably find more. I love this game. Lara Croft is a survivor. And, Brianna Pratchett came and, wrote that game. She worked with a lot of other people at Crystal Dynamics, but I think that game is a masterpiece. And, like Lara Croft, she's put in a hellish situation and she's just trying to survive. And, that's a character trait that I really identify with, and when her friend gets kidnapped, you hear that fear and terror in her voice with wanting to save her. And when she's forced to kill someone, you hear her voice shake with emotion. And I just love the truth of that character and the voice acting. I love it. I love it. What about you?
Yeah. I liked that one a lot. I liked that story. I think that's probably my favorite Tomb Raider of all of them.
Oh, by far.
You see those beginnings, and like, it's one of those things when you're explaining that version of Tomb Raider to someone, you're like, do you remember Tomb Raider? How she could do like a fucking flip as she did up on like a ledge or something? Like, this isn't her. She hasn't learned how to do that yet. She's starting, so you're getting those fumblings and you're learning your way through it. I think connecting with her on that one was really fun, and I can't wait for the next one to see where she's at and what's going on with that one. I think it's great.
You can obviously see from the facial expressions of the panels and people that are sitting in the chat who is in love with the storyline of the game and who loves the mechanics of the game, because I see Pixie and Holly are both going, yeah. Mm-hmm.
I only played the newest one because my fans asked me to play it, and I loved it. It was super, super fun. I played through it straight on stream. I loved it. I honestly haven't played a game with a character that I feel like I identify with. I'm just thinking back, but I've had games that have impacted me greatly through the characterization. I think one of the biggest games that impacted me was Spec Ops: The Line. I had to play through it straight for a review that I was writing for a company that I was working for, and that game rocked my world. I mean, that's like one of the first times that I'm like, holy crap, like this is really, and that was before my husband joined the military. So that was a really, really intense game for me. And then another game that I felt like that with is like back in the day, this sounds really corny. Everyone's going to laugh at me. I don't even care though. Haters are going to hate. Donkey Kong Country on the SNES. That screen when you're out of lives and they're like crying with bandages on, I still can't handle it. And it has that music. It's like boom, boom,
sad,
boom,
sad.
And they're all there with bandages. Like, that touched me as a kid. I'm like, oh my gosh, like I better do good because these monkeys are dying.
So let me throw that question at Pixie and Tiff. Is there or has there been a game or a storyline that you've connected with? Pixie, you go first.
Yeah, there have been a lot actually. One of the most recent. We're
just gonna take one.
I've never been a horror fan. Horror games terrify me greatly. But I played Crow Bites Among the Sleep, and I identified so much with the toddler in that game. It was pretty insane. It was so well done as far as development goes. You feel like you become the child. And that's what I found so fascinating about the game is I felt like that toddler. And it was amazing. And it's a game like to this day, I still replay.
Can you say the name of it one more time?
Among the Sleep. I've
not heard of that game.
You've never heard of that game? Well, I don't play the scary game, so I can't even play through that. So I guess it's beyond me. But go ahead, Tiff.
Oh, it looks beautiful.
I really love the newest Tomb Raider right there with you, Brianna. Like their survival instincts on it are it's absolutely amazing. And with a game like that, you can kind of apply that to different types of life situations with having to make really hard decisions and sacrificing things and just being all by yourself, and trying to find your way back in. So me personally, I really loved her in that game. It got to me to a certain extent, but as far as I go, there's probably no real character that I connect with super, super much. Like that, there's no game out there that has me in it. So it's
Maybe you need to make it, young lady. Maybe
I
you need
guess
to
I
make
would
it.
probably be a pretty boring game. Just like be like, it's a motorcycle art game, like whatever. Probably be pretty fun.
Choose your own adventure.
Game, and you would race motorcycles and then like paint your bike or something. I don't know.
So guys, we are getting to the tail end of the show. We are running out of time. I know you guys have a lot more questions that we've been throwing up in the chat, but you can also connect with Brianna on her Twitter, and she'd be more than happy to answer some of those questions. So we're going to be throwing up her Twitter and her website blog, some other places where you can find her podcasts. Bree, go ahead and plug where the podcasts are while you got the chance, because they're listening.
Sure. We have 2 shows on Relay FM. Like Ladies of the Round Table, I was very pissed off that there were no podcasts, professional podcasts with primarily women. So I created 2 of them. The first is Isometric, which is my game podcast. And being an engineer, I have a tech podcast too, called Rocket. So check those out. We're doing some of the best work in the industry, I feel.
I have to say that if you haven't read the latest article over on the Mary Sue, which was co-written by this Brianna Wu, go ahead and throw out that title. I'm going to let you say it because it's so fabulous.
Sure. So the title, oh my God, this got me so much blowback in ways I truly didn't expect it to blow up like this. So the headline was Samus is trans, deal with it. So the basic premise of the article is one of the designers behind Samus basically made a comment one time saying that Samus was a transgender woman. So basically, my co-author and I basically looked into that and wrote a piece about this. And I love that you asked me about this on the show. You gotta let me say this. Transgender representation really matters. Right here in Boston, a few years ago, I had my friend Evelyn commit suicide. She was transgender, and she was beautiful, but she couldn't accept herself because everything in society was constantly telling her she was a joke. She had no self-worth. She wasn't important, and it really channeled into hate and ultimately took her life. So, when we're talking about transgender representation in games, this is really important. And, we all need heroes. I don't care if you're, a tall, skinny software engineer or, like a girl that is size 12 or a person of color or gay or lesbian. Like, we all just want to see ourselves in the media that we consume. The biggest way to make people feel like a monster in society is to not let them have a reflection in the media, in the culture, in our games. So, this stuff matters. And, we got a tremendous amount of blowback with it. I think there's a reasonable argument to be had that Samus is not transgender, but I think there's a good case for it too. Make up your own mind, but the important thing isn't Samus. It's that you wake up and realize more people need to be represented in games. And I will fight you tooth and nail on that. So
I have to say that the article was very well written, very well researched. And I think that I have to say, from my perspective, on a personal note, thank you for opening up a dialogue for a lot of people to have a conversation, whether you agree with it or don't agree with it. It is very interesting to see things from a different perspective, which makes us human.
Yeah.
With that being said, this is what we do. This is why we're here. Ladies of the Round Table every Friday night, 9:30 Eastern, here on Twitch. Be sure to follow us on our Twitter and follow us on the channel to see who will be coming up next week. And next week, just so you guys know, back at the table will be Patrick Scott Patterson. He's a senior columnist for over at G4 Sci-Fi Games. You know him well from his love of Miss Pac-Man and other various retro games. And if you've been at an E3 or a PAX, you've seen this big tall guy walking around with shades. That'd be the man. So he'll be back at the table next week, same bat channel, same bat time. And we want to thank Brianna for joining us And we're going to go into our usual roll out of the show with our shout outs. Shout outs are, Brianna, exactly that. Give a shout out to those who have got you here or who are looking at you now and wishing they wouldn't have been so mean, and or your mom, your dog, whoever that might be that you feel that you need to give some respect to.
I will give a shout out to my wonderful husband, who, if you like the work that I do, is because he has sat next to me and been so supportive this year. You know, Frank works his butt off for a family, and he has cooked me plenty of dinners when I've come in from, you know, like I've done 13 straight hours of media appearances today. So, you know, and he takes care of me. He's a wonderful, wonderful husband. So that's who my shout out is to.
Awesome. Pixie, we give your shout outs tonight.
So shout outs to my doctor for giving me some dope meds. Thanks. You're amazing. Shout outs to Pedialyte, and also Gatorade. It's pretty awesome. And shout outs to everybody in chat for being here. Like haters and non, you guys have made this an incredibly interesting show. And have given us a lot to talk about and think about, and we definitely appreciate it. And we hope to see you guys again next week.
Tiff.
Yeah, thanks to everyone in the chat this week. You guys have been super active, and so that's really great when you guys are active with us, because we get to have conversations with you guys via the chat. Even though you're not at the table here on the video, you're still at the table in the chat, and we love it. So thank you guys so much. I definitely appreciate it. And of course, everyone who's been really supportive for me for this past month that I've been going insane. So that's been really fantastic. I have a lot of really great supportive friends. And I do want to send a special shout out to my other fellow officers of Geek Girl Brunch who have been dealing with me being absent on the last couple ones. And Holly-Ann, do you have some news about Geek Girl Brunch on your end?
Yeah, I'm an officer of a chapter we're starting in San Diego. So kind of
awesome.
Exciting, all because of Tiff.
If you do not know what Geek Girl Brunch is, and you are a lady and you identify as a lady and you want to come join other ladies, talk about movies, video games, anything nerdy, jerky, anything, and you like mimosas and you like brunch, we do once a month. We set up a special event where our next one here in the DFW area, which is Sunday. This Sunday, I'm going to miss it. But it's all about board games. They're going to be playing board games with each other, which is always really cool. I've met a lot of really fantastic people through the community, game devs and people in the industry, and just other fellow nerdy people, which is really, really fun. You can go to geekgirlbrunch.com and find out if there's a chapter in your area, or you can be like Holly-Ann and start one.
And believe me, there are more chapters than you think there are. So if you don't think there's one in your area, trust me, message them. They're very nice over there. They will respond to you within a reasonable amount of time and get into action, relate with the women and other geek girls in your area. And it's not just for women. Trust me, they're working on getting guys involved too. So
there's a couple, we're working on some co-ed ones. Usually once a chapter kind of gets established, that's when we start getting inquiries about doing co-eds. And we are working on doing that with a couple of them, because we do love everyone that supports us and still loves to come out and hang out with us for those brunches. It's really fun, and I love having them. So they're fun. Good luck, Holly-Ann. That's going to be a lot of fun.
So my shout outs this week, first and foremost, Super Freak Tyler for coming in like a superhero and saving our butts, because we had a Ian, my ginger bear, who's under the weather with a broken foot. Don't know how that happened, but hopefully he's going to be up and on some crutches and moving around in no time. And to you ladies, specifically Holly and Tiff, who've been traveling and spreading the good word about what we're doing. I know you guys are tired and been ripping and running, but appreciated and good job. Kudos to you. Miss Brianna Wu, you are invited back anytime. Open invitation. You know where to find us.
I'd love to do it again.
We had a great time. So this is it for episode.
I didn't do my shout out.
Yeah, Holly-Ann didn't
Did I skip you?
You did. I passed it to her, but then I took it back, and then.
Oh, I'm sorry. Go. I'm sorry.
Okay. Well,
She's like, no, I don't want to.
No, I don't care.
So no, my shout out was actually going to be focused on Brianna for being here.
Sweet.
I you know, saw a lot of stuff about you from the media and, you know, from other people. And I think it's very easy to pass judgment on people. I'm really stoked for everyone that was in here because the things that I see from you personally in this time, I absolutely love you. I think you're fantastic.
Thank you.
I think you're passionate. I think the work you're doing is fabulous in the industry. So I'm excited to have had this opportunity to get to chat with you.
Yep.
I think people in the chat, I want to encourage you guys, and shout out to you guys for being here. Thanks for making it awesome. I just want to encourage you guys. We might not all agree on things all the time, but that's not what it's about. It's about making a positive difference together for the community as a whole. So I just want to encourage you guys with that because I've been super, super encouraged tonight. I've had a super fun time. And I also want to shout out to, oh my gosh, I had something else really great.
Shout out to Redbeard for, you know, that surgery. We're sending good vibes.
Yeah. And also, okay, I remembered it.
Go.
We want to remember today, September 11th,
Yes,
for
ma'am.
anyone that might be in the chat that has been impacted by this in some way. We want to remember those families and loved ones that have been impacted by this, and thank all of our men and women in uniform. And by uniform, I mean like police officers, firefighters, military, not just military. So I wanted to give that shout out as well.
Yes, and you know what? Today is not the only day to remember everybody in uniform because we would not have the freedom to have this conversation and do what we do without those of you who are servicemen and women. So we appreciate you. And with that being said, this concludes episode 71 of Ladies of the Round Table or LORT Live. You can check us out on the YouTube. You can check us out on the Twitter. We do have a Facebook, and you know what? We even have Pinterest, but don't look over there because I'm not over there all the time. I don't know what the hell's going on. Oh, bless you. So we do want you guys to keep contact with us and throw us up your fur babies because that was the theme of the show when we first started. So if you love your fur babies, we'd love to see them. And good night to you all, and roll those credits, Ty.